Thank you. Welcome to our Thursdays with NoMAA. Before we begin, it's my pleasure to introduce NoMAA's Art Stroll Coordinator, Martin Collins, who has a special statement to share with us tonight. Martin.
Thank you, Neria. Michelle, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on another edition of Thursdays with NoMAA. Tonight, sponsored by Fort Washington Public House on Broadway and West 165th Street, in a Washington Heights tavern with great burgers, bites, and entrees. They opened in 2017, and they have an impressive catering menu and are open daily until 2 a.m., 7 days a week. For dining in and outdoors and curbside pickup, they've delivered to everyone through all the online apps. And happy hour there is 3 to 7 p.m. weekdays. Don't forget to visit Fort Washington Public House's sisters restaurants. They have 3 more. Broadway Slice, just 2 doors down from Fort Washington Public House. Also, there's the Tryon Public House, 4740 Broadway and Thayer Street, 1 block south of Dyckman Street, and the Tubby Hook Tavern at 4946 Broadway between West 207th and Isham Street. Fort Washington Public House is a strong supporter of the arts and pro-community programs, and the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance thanks Fort Washington Public House for sponsoring Thursdays with NoMAA and award-winning artists Andrea Arroyo and Felipe Galindo. Andrea, back to you.
Thank you so much, Martin, and thank you so much to the Fort Washington Public House for your support. Good evening to all of you. I am so happy to be here tonight for what is our last Thursdays with NoMAA for the summer. My name is Neria Leyva Gutierrez, and I am the Executive Director of the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance. We have now been at this for 15 months, and I can honestly say that it remains a highlight of my week, of my month, and it's been such an amazing opportunity for all of us to get to know one another in a fairly intimate, albeit virtual setting. Before we begin tonight, which I can't wait to do, I'd like to thank the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs for supporting this program. And as you know, for those of you who have joined us week after week, or even on occasion, this program is an opportunity to get to know our amazing uptown artists. It's an opportunity to learn something new or unexpected about these artists, and it's especially a chance for all of you to ask questions and engage in conversation with our featured artists. So please, as always, we encourage you to ask your questions in the chat, and we will be sure to give you a chance to ask them directly. Tonight marks a new moment for us. We have not 1, but 2 extraordinary artists with us, and we are so excited that they have agreed to be with us and to share with us tonight. Their generosity of spirit, their phenomenal talent, their commitment to their work, to their community, and to the issues of the day are for us an honor to be a part of. Indeed, this is an embarrassment of riches for sure, and a wonderful way to close out this edition of Thursdays with NoMAA. I get to introduce first Andrea Arroyo. Born in Mexico City, Andrea is a self-taught and award-winning artist, curator, and activist with a background in contemporary dance. Working in drawing, painting, sculpture, site-specific installations, and public art, her work, which examines social justice themes with a special focus on their impact on women, is widely exhibited around the globe, including in the Library of Congress, the Smithsonian, the New York Public Library, the Latin Recording Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Ellis Island Foundation, the Richmond Museum, and the National Museum of Mexican Art. She is a recipient of so many prizes, honors, and grants from a variety of institutions and entities, including the New York Foundation for the Arts Fellowship, the Clinton Global Initiative, the U.S. Department of State, NoMAA, the Puffin Foundation, the Harlem Arts Alliance, the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone, and the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council. She has been awarded Outstanding Woman of the New York, Groundbreaking Latina in the Arts, and Outstanding Latina of the Year. Her public works have appeared in New York City schools and children's clinic, and also in the International Museum of Women, the Elizabeth Cady Stanton Museum, the Morris Jamel Mansion, and so many other places and media outlets like the New Yorker, the New York Times, and the International Herald Tribune. She is also a dedicated and committed friend of NoMAA, having been awarded numerous grants and prizes and having served as a curator for the annual Women in the Arts exhibition for over a decade. She is also an absolute joy to work with, and we are so grateful that she is such an important part of the NoMAA family. And I am so incredibly honored to present Felipe Galindo, aka Faygo. Born in Cuernavaca, Mexico, Feggo earned his BFA in visual arts from the UNAM, National Autonomous University of Mexico, and has resided in New York City since 1983. Specializing in humorous art, his various projects include fine art, public art, illustration, cartoons, and animation. His graphic work has been exhibited and published extensively around the world in outlets such as The New Yorker, The Nation, The New York Times, The Wall Street Journal, Reader's Digest, Mad, Narrative, International Herald Tribune, NACLA, the Manhattan Times, and numerous new European publications. And his work has been featured in many public and private collections. He is a recipient of multiple international awards and grants, including from UMES, the Puffin Foundation, NISCA, NoMAA, the People's Choice Award, Omiya Festival in Japan, the New York Foundation for the Arts, the Ebo Humor Award, the MCAF Grant, Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, the NALAC Fund for the Arts Grant, the Rockefeller U.S. Mexico Fund for Cultural Grant, and Latino Public Broadcasting Award. He is the curator of the celebrated Manhattanland Project, which is an ongoing series created over 20 years and consists of a series of artworks on paper and 2 animation films, and is inspired by the intertwining of Mexican and American cultures. Galindo's public art includes a faceted glass panel installation at the 231st Street train station. I am so thrilled to introduce to some of you, or highlight, as it were, for many of you who are familiar with their amazing body of work, these extraordinary Uptown artists. And so I happily turn the evening over to them.
Thank you, Neria, for that lovely, lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Neria and the NoMAA team for inviting us. We're very excited. I think it's the first time we share a stage or a screen in this way. So it's going to be fun. We're going to show you a couple of videos, just a tour around our studios in lieu of a personal visit that we hope we can do at some point in the future when the pandemic is over, which is hopefully soon. So let's just take it away and start with the videos, and we'll continue later.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Andrea Arroyo and I'm a visual artist. Welcome to my studio. Again, so this is my studio. We are right on Broadway and I'm gonna show you around. I usually work on several projects at a time. I have different tables and different spaces for different projects. This is a project that I've been working on. Is for a site-specific installation. And some art supplies, of course, some three-dimensional works. This is part of the same installation. And on the top you can see some tiny paintings, small square paintings that are from a series that I titled Fragments. And these are inspired by fragments that are found on archaeological sites. Mosaics, murals from, centuries and centuries ago. These small pieces are inspired by that. On the other wall, we have another series, and these I title Sacred Women. And these are mixed media on custom-made panels. And they are inspired by sacred spaces, sacred architecture, cathedrals, temples, pyramids. And they, of course, as most of my work, deal with the subject of women, women's stories, women's challenges, struggles, and victories both contemporary and past, present, historic, mythology, all kinds of inspiration. Then let's see, I have also some works that are more graphic and more digital. I have a Black Lives Matter poster that I made recently. I have the work that I did when I was named the official artist of the Latin Grammy. Then there are some postcards from different exhibits and projects. And then I have the New Yorker cover, one of the New Yorker covers that I did, as well as a postcard for a recent exhibit. And then I want to show you what I've been working on lately. So during the pandemic, I was very scared, like everyone, and I was really shocked. Every day we were getting numbers of all of the victims, and I didn't want to focus on the numbers. It was just too overwhelming. So I decided to focus on something beautiful. So I decided to focus on tenderness. So all of these works are about tenderness. They are about care. You see a lot of the hands that symbolize care. You see a lot of the human form, female forms, the sun. So wanted to focus on nature and on the beauty of life, because at the same time that we were grieving, the victims of the pandemic, and also honoring, the essential workers and everybody who was trying to, make our lives a little bit easier. I wanted to focus on the bigger picture, and that is solidarity and love and tenderness. So that's the series that I've been working on right now, and it's a big contrast with the larger scale work that I have been working for years past. But I've been just focusing on this, and the scale of it, the small scale, just is very intimate, and I really like focusing on something small for the moment, something that is very immediate and something that is very fluid. As you can see, just a quick view from the studio. Everything that I do, all of the images are female form. They have a lot of movement, they're very lyrical. I was trained as a dancer, so a lot of my style comes from that inspiration, the female form in movement. And I am really interested in women's stories. So that's it for now. Thank you for visiting, and I hope to see you in person soon.
Great. Now it's going to be my turn. Hello, everybody. This is my studio. Welcome. It's a little bit like entering my brain because I have too many things on my mind, and my studio reflects that. I have a lot. I'm presenting here some works that are illustrations and cartoons. The works on my wall have been exhibited in different places. So I like to display them to remind me of that I have to work more, or that I have to come up with new exhibitions. So basically I'm surrounded always by my work. I work in many series, different series. I have something about Frida Kahlo. I have some reuse, where I use the recycled materials. I work in 2 computers. I work a lot digitally. And as I said, I work on different projects. So sometimes I'm working on one project on one part, and another project on another computer. I do drawings, and then I scan them. I add color on them. I wanted to show you some sculptures from Mexico, from the Toltec Mayan culture, called Chacmol. They are like my I get inspired by them. They were messengers between the gods and the mortals. I consider myself a messenger between Mexican and American cultures. So I collect them, I love them, and they were the inspiration for an artist, Henry Moore. These are samples of my cartoons, my cartoon works, illustrations, something about architecture. I like to make humor about arts. This is Van Gogh, Frida Kahlo in New York. These are more political work done during the past administration. The Statue of Liberty, I use her as a character for a project, Taking Liberties. You can watch that on my website, Faygo.com, or acquire the book. This is a recent cartoon published in the Wall Street Journal. This is about global warming. This has been awarded in different countries, in Belgium, Portugal, Turkey, and the United Nations. Sometimes it's incredible how the response you can get from an image. My book of cartoons, No Man is a Desert Island. So as I said, I'm showing you a little bit of everything I have in my studio. I sketchbooks, I love sketchbooks. They are like my best friend. I carry them all the time, and I try to portray, instead of taking photos, I like to draw. I go to museums, I go to events. Everything inspires me. I'm on the beach or I'm on the park, in my own studio. It's for me, it's a lot of practice. As I said, I have more than 100 sketchbooks, and I collect them from all over the world. When I travel, I bring from everywhere. So they are a great companion for me. These are samples of cartoons from the New Yorker. I have published some diplomas from competitions that I have been awarded. This is from the United Nations, Greece, Turkey. This is a sample of a print of the public work that I have on 231st Street Station on the #1 line. I invite you to visit them. It's called Magic Realism in Kingsbridge. These are some stuff from Mexico. This is the way I work sometimes. This is a sketch. I will have, I will work on watercolor and ink on the finished piece. This is another sketch. Is called 4th of July, view from the south border. This is a print because fortunately the original was acquired by the Library of Congress. It's in the collection there. So it was a great surprise for me. I'm honored with that. This is another sketch of my series Manhattan, Mexican American Cultures Intertwined. It ended up in the cover of my book. I don't have the original anymore. It's in the collection of somebody else. This was a recent project about George Washington coming back to New York City. It was an exhibition at the Morris Jumel Mansion 2 years ago. It was well received, and it's basically thinking about Washington returning to New York City. So this is basically where I spend my days and nights sometimes. And thank you very much for your visit here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing to see both of your studios. You're both so prolific. I'm fascinated because I wanted to ask you both because you each have such accomplished, rich, and distinct careers. And although you share, intellectual, physical, perhaps spiritual space, you also have very different artistic expressions. Can you talk to us a bit about that? Where and how do you diverge? And where in this space and time, in this moment, do you find maybe some convergences?
Well, for me, we diverge I think in most of what we do, the way we work, the rhythm we have. We have, of course, different separate studios at home. We are together 24/7, so we converse in many other things and many personal things. We love each other's company. But in terms of our work, we're very independent, and also we rely on each other a lot for support. We do many different things, both of us. We do many different kinds of projects, and we converge, I think, especially in the past 5 years, we've been converging on work that is in response to social justice issues. So maybe that's something that we could talk about today, because I think that's our main focus when we converge in terms of our art and our values.
Yes. Yeah, especially it also started from the previous administration, which when we realized we thought everything was safe, democracy was safe, but then we realized it was not. So we basically started coming up with ideas, and Andrea was very, very adamant to that. She was really starting the Trump administration. She began with a project right away. So sometimes I get inspired by her energy and her actions, and I am more how can I say, I work in a smaller format and everything, but she decided to invite many artists, do exhibitions, prints, and so it's very and of course I offer her my help. So in a way we work as a team. It's like a good dancing partners, let's say.
So do you have some of that work? I think, Michelle, you might have some of those images. I mean, I'd love to see that, because I think that's true. I mean, you know, again, you sort of work in with different expressions, but you bounce ideas off of each other, and you're, you know, constantly in dialogue. So what does that look like, and how does that show up in your work?
Yes. In this case, for example, this is an image from a project I have about the Dreamers. I made many illustrations about them, and they still, the DACA recipients, I mean, are still in a legal limbo, many years after the Obama administration gave them a chance to stay and work, but still it's an ongoing thing. So it's sad, but I hope this has a good ending. You want to see another?
So maybe Michelle, we can start with the number one, with the image. I think the top image, or the one.
Okay, let's start.
So I think if I go first, just I'll go quickly.
Yes.
I focus a lot on things that are very serious in content, but I try to do, my approach is very celebratory. So here I'm, you know, thinking about the environment, about care for the air, the environment, Earth Day, and the idea is to celebrate. I say a lot this word, like celebration, honoring the earth, honoring each other. The next image, if you can. Again, this is a serious subject. It's about borders, it's about oppression, it's about, you know, borders are man-made, they're not natural, and people are gonna do what is necessary to survive, to care for each other, and to feed their families, basically. So this is titled Love Has No Borders. Next one is again about the border. This is a subject that is very, very dear to me, very important. And you know, when the last administration, or any administration that is threatening immigrants, I always say, we will grow wings if necessary. You know, we will build bridges, we will just do anything and everything that is necessary to survive and to thrive. And that energy is really, really valuable. Next image. This is, again, celebrating immigration. It's, you know, it's a little bit of a self-portrait, just with a Mexican dress, and New York City, celebrating New York City. I adore New York City. I adore my background. I adore Mexico as well. So this is really how I feel usually when I'm in New York. Next image. This one is titled Me Too, of course. And I published this right like a couple of days after Me Too exploded in the international arena. It won the first prize in the United Nations Political Image Award. It's been, you know, distributed all over the world. It's kind of gone viral. I'm very proud of that. And, you know, I did that because I wanted to do a statement, but also show hope. again, about women and feminism. This was for Women's History Month. And my idea is always, you know, Women's Month is every month, Women's Day is every day. And more than flowers, we need justice and we need equality and equity. Next image. Again, it's about anti-racism. We have been suffering from a lot of issues regarding inequality, racism, and discrimination, xenophobia. And let's just remember that the United States is a country of immigrants, a country of Native Americans. So embracing each other is the only way forward. Next image. Gun violence. It's also a very important thing that I approach a lot. And you know, I see guns and I don't even know what to do. It's very disturbing to me to even look at an image of a gun, a picture, a drawing, let alone an actual gun. So what do? Just, you know, use them as flowers. This is titled Seeds of Peace. Next image. And this is again about equity and activism. Is admiring and following the lead of the LGBTQ community, which has been leading the way in activism for a long time. And also talking about intersectionality in activism, you know. Next, and I think that's the last one, again, talking about Earth Day, protecting the earth, protecting each other, and harmony between different races and different backgrounds and different communities. Thank you. I think that's the last one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Faygo, next one.
Okay. Yes. So this is some of my images. As I was telling you, this is about the dreamers. The next one, it's a little bit about the same opportunities. The education can take you out of some tough positions. I mean, a lot of workers have a hard time getting education. So for me, education is very, very important, and this is how I portray it. This is about human trafficking. Unfortunately, it's still going on. So it's something that we have to fight against. Oddly enough, this is an image that has been very popular in Europe. A lot of books have been buying this to be reproduced in Europe because they also suffer a lot of human trafficking. The next one is about the immigration reform. Instead of putting up walls, let's open doors, but in a legal way. Let's say there is a lot of opportunities in this country, a lot of people who wants to contribute, and I hope they do that soon in this administration. Hopefully they can pass some immigration reform. This is about racial profiling. It's an image I did many years ago. As by now, everything has been really boiling up, and finally the Black lives have been heard, and there are hopefully reforms coming up soon because we have to stop this. I have also suffered discrimination, so I can understand totally. This is why I did this image. It starts with anything. This is a cartoon I did last year for a conference from the Red Cross, I believe, and the same about getting along. It says here, I suggest you to take an empathy pill every day. For how long? For the rest of your life. This is something we have to learn to do every day. Every day we have to be good to each other. The next image is about my concern for the planet. I think there is too much plastic. Plastic is a blessing and a curse, unfortunately. So it's a matter of being responsible. I believe the companies that produce plastic are not that responsible. I mean, it's incredible to buy a product that you can consume in 3 minutes and the plastic bag is gonna stay for hundreds of years. So we have to do something about this as well. So this is my way of, this is another, as I was saying, I call this evolution pollution. I believe mankind generates a lot of garbage that has to be, we have to take care of that. We have to take care of the environment. So the next image is the same. I was telling you about global warming. I try always to portray all these issues with some humor, some compassion, some whimsical images. I hope to say something with this, with my images. And the last one is, I call this passing the torch. I guess the new generations have to see the democracy and all the values that we have in this country in a new way. So it's now the chance for the new generations to take the torch, and we have to listen to them and to answer to them. So this is it. This is a little sample of these social justice images that we have been working on lately.
Much for that. You know, I'm so struck, you know, by all of these images, because the messages behind these images, you know, whether you're using humor or you're sort of using these direct kind of you know, images that sort of strike on impact. Behind all of these images, you know, there's such a layered, poignant, you know, thought behind them, and I'm so interested in how you both translate that. You know, you translate these really poignant, these really complex, you know, this notion of, you know, the idea of an empathy pill, right? That's such a great idea. This notion of, you know, we'll grow wings. You know, these are really large concepts that you both distill in such, you know, either direct or humorous language. How do you arrive at that? What's that process? Because, you know, that there's a complexity there, you know, that I think is so important to kind of to talk about, and you put in different ways, but you're both, you know, you're both doing that. You know, you're distilling these great big, you know, overwhelming ideas and topics in such direct or again humorous language. Tell us a little bit about that, both of you, because I find that fascinating.
You want to start? Andrea.
Thank you. For me, it really comes from, I mean, they're big subjects, they're big issues. And when I started this series, I committed to not what I called complaining. I didn't want to just point out something that's wrong. I wanted to make it better. So I use a lot of symbols that are hearts and hands, and it's symbols of care and solidarity and empathy. For me, activism comes from love. There's just no other way to explain it. It comes from love. And for me, it's about expressing an idea quickly, because I know people don't have a lot of time. There's a lot of information out there. And these images, I do them also digitally, because I like that, you know, it's immediate. I can publish them, you know, a magazine or a newspaper can publish it, and then I can share it. And they're very, very concise. And for me, that's very important to express a message in a very concise way. And again, for me, it's about celebration. It's about hope. It's about empowering. So if we're talking about something that is really negative, it's about what can we do about it. So that's usually the challenge that I pose myself when I start a project or a drawing about social justice issues. It's not about just pointing out, but about what can I do to change it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Andrea has a very good point, because this is something we discussed last year as the pandemic started. She began to do a lot of images. I was more kind of in a shell shock state, but she began to work on a lot of them, and I I began to do some, and then I realized I was just pointing out problems, and we realized we have to do something, just not criticize, but to propose something, or at least give an image that it's uplifting, especially during these times. And I said that could be applied to all the political images. So now every time I do something, I try to do that. I try to do, to go the extra mile, let's say, instead of, because political cartoonists, sometimes we're known for just criticizing, but we sometimes have to propose or go in a certain in a different direction. I think we have to open new ways of seeing things. So it's a challenge. It's a daily challenge to come to. I mean, to arrive to all these images that we do. It's we do a lot of sketching, a lot of trial and error. Even moving certain images, I do a lot of sketches, I discard a lot, and when I reach out to one I like, that's when I go deep and start doing the final. Andrea also has a lot of sketchbooks with a lot of ideas, so it's like Niria was saying, we're distilling a lot of information into a simple image that can be, that you get it and you say, oh, okay, you agree, and to move you, to make you think, and but in a gentle way, let's say.
I think what's also fascinating is that, you know, you're both so prolific. You know, you're constantly working. And it's so interesting because, again, it's this sort of juxtaposition with the distillation, you know, of these big issues into these direct or kind of, you know, sort of, you know, humorous or kind of images that engage. But it also, I think, reveals the urgency of the message, you know, because I see in both of, you know, even if it's gentle, even if it's, you know, humorous, or even if it's compassionate and full of empathy, there is that sense of urgency because it's continuous. You know, there's that frequency that, you know, despite those kind of gentle, easy qualities that are just kind of digestible and or on impact, you know, you feel it. I think, you know, reveals so much about what you both are internalizing, you know, on the daily, you know, because you don't get to that unless you're constantly, right? You know, and I love that because, you know, that process is incredible, right? That process of sort of, you know, being big and alive and engaged, and then kind of translating that and just kind of feeding, you know, the world with these images that connect on impact is very powerful. And sort of in that way, you know, I think you also converge, you know, which is fascinating because you do it in different ways, but you certainly have that similar kind of approach to how you get there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we don't really discuss what we're going to do. We just start with an image and we will show it to each other when the image is already like 90% finished. Just to get a reaction. Like, what do you think of this? Oh, I will go like, oh my God, this is great. I mean, I'm a big Andrea fan. Fan of Andrea. And then we tell her, how did you come up with this idea? It's really interesting. So it's always, as I said, we collaborate in giving us some opinion, let's say, of sometimes we might follow it, sometimes we don't. I said, no, I'm like it as it is. Okay, because we have a different ways of seeing things, and it's
right.
It might work with her work, not with mine. So it's interesting. So we're always supporting each other, but also very critical of each other sometimes. So it's
that's good. It's almost like an intellectual shorthand, right? You know, you know, that's nice to be able to do that.
Mhm.
You know, the,
Yeah,
the longer we're together, every day I understand even more how different our brains work.
Yes, it's
We are just, and in there, there are different kinds of circus going on. It's just really, really different the way we approach things and the way we resolve things. So it's really enriching. The other thing I wanted to mention is that because I feel like I'm tuning in all the time, 100% of the time, it tends to be a challenge. It tends to be exhausting because I'm alert about what's happening all the time. And I tend to be very active in terms of what can I do, and that may sometimes it's really exhausting. But at the same time, while I'm working and while I'm drawing, it becomes what's exhausting and challenging and sad and terrifying becomes healing. Like putting pen on paper, or a pen on the iPad, or the brush on the canvas, it transforms me into healing. It's a process that is healing. So I think that's the only way I can sustain this practice, because we do so much and so many different things, and putting this political work and social justice work that is so direct on top of that couldn't be sustainable if it were not for it is also healing.
yeah.
And I think that's, that was sort of what I was sort of intimating too, which is you both do so much work. You arrive at your images, at what you put out there is a product of so much, because you're so invested, because you're, as you said, you're constantly in the throes of what's happening, to produce the images that you produce, to distill. I mean, to distill is exhausting.
And also, believe it or not, we have almost, let's say, religiously, we dedicate 1 or 2 days to do nothing. Sometimes we go to the park and we just are staring at the trees because we have to clean our minds and make them calm
Sure.
to go back again. So we have to balance that a lot. Otherwise you burned out. So we have to enjoy life. I mean, we are worried about life, but we have to enjoy it as well. So because I noticed that in the past administration, for me, I don't know if everybody was feeling like that. Every day was like a 9/11. Every morning I woke up saying, now what? Imagine that 4 years. I mean, ending up in January 6th. I mean, so by now we are a little more relaxed with this new administration, with Biden. So we approach the things with more ease, more calm. But before, honestly, I was really, really worried.
I was more calm than I am. I have to say, he's more calm. I'm not so calm.
Now,
I don't know if you can see that.
beautiful, amazing.
A preview.
Just in terms of what I'm saying, like things are happening, I get upset, like, this is not, it's not justice, it's not fair, the world has to change. And the next question for me is, what can I do? What can I do?
Okay.
So, well, but I think that's what's so interesting about both of you is that you have that, that sense of mission. Art has a role, right? I mean, that's it's a modern vision, right? That art is not just for, the sake of aesthetics or art for art's sake, but a role. And so when you have a role, you have a job to do, you have a mission, and so you have to be continually, right, thinking about these things because the world needs that, expects that. Right. And that's what you're contributing. Those are your contributions. So you have to be in the throes of it. And there's a lot of pressure in that, especially, as you said, in the last 4 years, that pace was almost unsustainable. It was like, you would be in a meeting for an hour and you'd be like, what did I miss? You'd have to social media. What did I miss? What did I miss? And that's a big responsibility, right? Art as not just fulfilling aesthetics or whatever, all the many things that art can do, but also art as having, a purpose, a relevance, right? There's responsibility there as well. I think that, you both have that urgency or that sense of responsibility. We have a few questions that I wanted to ask. I think Susan Haney, you had a question here. Are you?
Susan.
Let's see, Susan? Okay, let's see. All right, so let's go to, Martin has a question. Martin.
Yes, I wanted to ask you both. Yes, I wanted to ask you both how the pandemic and the BLM movement both transformed your work.
Thank you for that question, Martin. For me, it really confirmed my commitment to art and to my role, to what I see myself doing as an artist. We talk a lot about using our privilege, and art is a universal language that really builds bridges across cultures and borders and languages. And that commitment is very important to me. And the other thing is about, for me, listening. We need to keep listening. We have to learn to listen, to relearn how we listen to each other. And when a community speaks, we have to listen. We don't have to give our opinion immediately. We don't have to make a statement. The most important part is listening. So we need to learn to do that, at least for my own personal point of view.
Yes, the same was for me. I mean, and it's incredible because we discuss a lot, and Andrea was really always making these great commentaries or points of view, and I was like, oh yes, so I was learning a lot from what she was saying. She's very alert in that, and for me also has been, I always try to understand the other side. I always try to put myself in that place in order to understand, and that has been very helpful in that sense. So empathy for me is very, very important, and as I said, it was a big wake-up call, and that's something that we didn't really grasp or understand. So there has to be reforms, there has to be ways of making this a better society for all.
That's great. Susan, are you here?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And hello, Andrea and Felipe.
Hello.
I want to just point out that on my home office, on the shelf next to me, I have two things. I have the Black Lives Matter with the 3 faces and the Black Lives Matter with peace, justice, and love, which is always right to my right at my home office. But the question I had, even though I have known Andrea and Felipe for more years than either of us or any of us will admit, I've never actually asked you the question, which is how you influence one another in either the style of your art, how you interpret things, because I have to think, since you are together 24/7, how do you influence one another, whether you're consciously or unconsciously?
I think for me, I learn a lot from Felipe because I'm self-taught in the visual arts. I was trained as a dancer. Feggo was trained in the visual arts, like formal training. And I rely on him a lot in terms of formal, technical, and artistic issues. Also, he influences me a lot in terms of his knowledge. He's a history buff, he's an art buff, he's a little bit of a nerd, which is lovely and fun. He's like an encyclopedia that explodes every time you ask a question. So I rely on him a lot for knowledge, and I admire him a lot for that. He's extremely curious, and I learn a lot from that.
Yes, and Andrea, in a way, inspire me and influences me in this way. I went to art school to learn a lot of things. And I tell her, it looks like you went to art school already. You have your software inside you. So it was a different approach to the arts. She was a natural, let's say. I had to learn it. So in that sense, I admire her a lot for that. And I know a lot of technical stuff, so we complement each other. She also helps me to simplify my ideas because sometimes she says I go too many. I want to say too many things in one image, and I say okay. So I tend to simplify, and and the movement. It's very interesting. My style was very rigid when I started, and when Andrea began to do all her work, and I said, oh, curves are nice. I mean, very wavy is nice. So maybe subliminally, she has been influencing me in that sense that I can be more flexible in my approach to my drawing. So and colorful also. She's very colorful. So.
That's a great question. I love that. And such great answers. Lilia, I think you had a question, sort of related a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it definitely is related. I love your work so much, and your thinking and your everything you do. It's just, I'm so, I'm really so in awe of you, and I've known you guys. But my question is, with all the independence and convergence and influences on one another, and your thinking and your attitude to the world really being very similar, have you ever done anything completely together as an art project, or do you think you will, or do you think you plan to?
We did an art project, an illustration project, a large illustration project. It was a series of images about Mexican culture. And it was a really fun experiment, a little nerve-wracking for me because I tend to be a little bit of a control freak. So we actually work on the concept, on the concept and the art together. So that was an interesting process.
The other one we did was something for the CDC in Chicago, remember? A poster for vaccination for the Hispanic community. We were invited to do something for Chicago, which was interesting. I think those are the only two projects we have worked together. It's but in a way, all our projects, we have a lot of each other. I mean,
yeah,
on view or behind the scenes, it's really, we support each other a lot. So.
Thank you. It shows. You're such a great team.
Okay.
That's great. I think Regina had a question. Regina, are you there?
I am, and this is wonderful. I've seen Andrea and Felipe's work, and it brings such joy to know that these important messages are going out from our neighborhood through you and through so many other artists. And I was just wondering, what does your family think of what you're doing, and who in your family are also artists?
No one in our families are artists. I mean, my mom was a ceramist and an artist at heart, no professional artist in my family. What do they think? I think they think that we're pretty crazy, and I'm pretty neurotic, and that's very accurate.
Yeah. In my family, there were no artists. I mean, there are some architects, but my father was a sportsman. He was a golf pro. He never understood why did I wanted to be an artist, but at the end he supported that. My mom was always supporting my art, and she introduced me to painters. She would give me books of Goya or Velázquez or so, but none of my family are do what that we do. I mean, like I do. My brothers had some skills, but that's when I realized just to have the skill to do something is not the same as thinking ideas and combining them with your skill. That's something different. And probably that's what I got from my father, for example, was a passion for what he was doing, and I'm passionate about what I'm doing now. So that would be the the only association I could have. So.
Great. That's a great question, Regina. This is what I love this program on Thursday, because we find out so many interesting things. But I think it's such an interesting idea, that notion of just finding your passion and sort of pursuing it, right? Kind of doing that in general. I'm looking at the time, and I can't believe we're almost at an hour. We have a tradition here on Thursday nights with NoMAA where we do a rapid fire question series. So I would like to do that with both of you. And I'm going to ask just questions that are just kind of fun to ask, and you can answer them. You can, either one of you can take the question, both of you can take the question. You can fight over who wants to answer however you want to do it. But I'm going to do a twist on the first question. So maybe you can both answer this question, but I'm going to ask, how would you not describe yourself in 3 words, but how would you describe each other in 3 words?
I'm gonna say Felipe is curious, smart, and funny.
Okay, very good. Felipe, you're up.
Andrea is fierce and fierce. No, yes, she's fierce, and she's very gentle in a way that that fierceness impacts you, and lovely. I mean, she's beautiful.
That's wonderful. Okay, but before we continue, this has been an incredible night, because we have had, we usually follow a particular kind of flow in the evening. Tonight we've had 2 extraordinary artists, and now we also have a very special guest who's joined us. And so I'm honored that the Manhattan Borough President, who is such a friend of NoMAA, such a dedicated of Uptown, of the arts and culture, a true model of what an elected official should be, is also here with us tonight to close out this evening. So I would like to welcome Madam President Gail Brewer, who is, I think maybe has a few words to share with us.
Well, I want to thank you. I'm in a restaurant, and I was in the restroom, but somebody came in. So now I'm in the ice room. And the owner just came by and thought I was the health department inspector. I'm sorry if it's noisy, but I don't know what else to do. But I really want to thank Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance. During the pandemic, you were always part of the Uptown Manhattan discussions. And I know Natalie joins me in stating how much we appreciated your input. And then, more importantly, Natalie figured out how to take the plywood murals that I love, that were on Dyckman, and find them a place to rest while you try to figure out how they could be shown in the future, because they're amazing examples of not only great art, but also the pandemic and what we went through. And then the story gets even better, because Danny Bonillo, who was one of the artists, I fell in love with him. And now he's on community board number 12. And he is a serious leader. So he's not only an artist, he's a bridge builder. Recently, he got all his friends who are absolutely amazing artists, probably all members of yours. And in the garden near Dyckman, he had them all exhibited. So I give you full credit. That's like fantastic. And so there are just so many ways that you don't even know the impact that you're having. That's just one. And then I love Martin. We all love Martin, because he tells me, which artists to go see. And of course, he's just like the every person who figures out how to solve problems. And Dr. Nira Gutierrez, your leadership has been nothing but phenomenal as part of Uptown Arts. I wish I could talk more. The problem is it's pretty noisy here, so I feel bad. But I just want to say that you really do show that culture never closes, and the fact that you have figured out these new artists and figured out how to cultivate them. I think we always knew that Inwood and Washington Heights had great arts, but you have brought everybody together. And you not only do it now, but you did it so often during the pandemic, which was hard. So I think we need to work even harder to make sure that artists have space. I have so many fights with new buildings. Every single new building, we always want affordable housing. But every single new building should have artist space. It could be performing arts, it could be visual arts, and it's such a fight. So I'm having a fight right now with a building Midtown on that same topic. I'm almost winning because they want me to be supportive. So if I do that, then maybe it could be something that would be mandated. So I just want to say, I think it would be great to have Natalie continue. But, the fact that, In the Heights helps, but you were there before In the Heights, and you have all of these amazing institutions that are part of not only historic houses, but, you have the Hispanic exhibition, Hispanic Museum. You just have a lot, and you're putting it all together. I must admit, I'm also very proud that really one of yours, Rob Snyder, because his book on Broadway and the issues regarding his documentary is part of Washington Heights and Inwood. So I just want to say congratulations on so many levels. And of course, you always have every single year the most amazing open houses and walks and artists, and you keep doing it. So I just want to say congratulations. And Natalie Espino, you should feel free because it's kind of weird to be in this icebox that I'm in right now.
I just think that, it's so memorable to have Gail joining us, from on location, no matter where she is. And
imagine where I am.
And I just, I really do want to acknowledge that what a wonderful double dose of local artists in this power couple that we've experienced tonight, Feggo and Andrea, just extraordinary. I will say that the Felipe Galindo's art graces, the Nation and the New York Times, and his postcards are in my cubicle at 1 Center Street. So at some point I'll do my own Thursdays with NoMAA, showing all of my Northern Manhattan swag in that cubicle. But Andrea, I have to say that as soon as, I saw you presenting about COVID, and I could go on and on, but we flagged it in our office to the borough historian to make sure that it was part of that archive at the Gotham Center on documentary of the COVID experience and COVID memorials, because art is so powerful, and art is so much, at this time more than any other, to provide us with, when we were isolated, to provide us with comfort, when we were coping with grief, when we were coping with fear, we were coping with uncertainty. We had each other on chats like this, and we cannot thank you enough.
Thank you. Thank you so much to both of you, to Natalie, to Gail. It's so meaningful to have you here tonight, especially as we close out this summer program. To have you in the fight, you talked about fighting, to have you with us along the way during this time, during this dark time, and to know that you understood just sort of, inherently in your bones that art is transformative, and that it is the way to bring about community, and to continue to build the city and to sort of move it forward has meant everything to us. So we are exceptionally honored to have you here tonight. We're exceptionally honored to have had you with us along the way for these last 15, 18 months. And we're so grateful to you. And whether you're in a bathroom stall or in a restaurant, or wherever you are, we just feel really, really, honored by your presence. So thank you for being with us
Thank
here
you.
tonight.
You're the one to be honored. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have another question that we love to ask of our artists. So here's the thing. This is interesting because I guess it's a joint dinner party, so maybe I have to double the question. Usually we ask, if we have a dinner party and you can invite 3 guests. It can be anyone, dead or alive, fictional or real. Who would you invite? But now you're throwing it together. So you're gonna have to who do you invite? So I'm gonna usually we say 3, but let's increase it. You can have a nice dinner party. I'll increase it to 6. What do you think?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna get Isadora Duncan,
Yes.
Frida Kahlo,
Love, yes.
and how about Simone Biles?
Beautiful. I love
We
I'd
have
like to
so
join.
much to learn from her. So
Oh,
that's,
I know.
yeah.
That's great. I like that trio. Okay, Felipe, you're up. Who are you going to add to the list?
I will ask Frida Kahlo's husband, Diego Rivera, which many
Ooh,
people
okay.
don't remember by now. I will ask Picasso, but Andrea doesn't like him, so I will ask Matisse to be there.
Okay.
And for some reason, I like a lot Gandhi, so I would like.
Oh, okay.
So this
That's
would be
good. So it's like the Brady Bunch. It's 3 and 3. Right? So it's like 3 women. Yeah, that'll be interesting with Frida and Diego in the same room right now. They would be such it would be so interesting to transport them this moment. In a way, she's so much more suited for this time and place. But I wonder what Diego would do.
I know. That's why let's have them at a dinner party and let them listen.
Let's hash it out. I'd love to hear what that would look like. Okay. All right. So we've got another question, and I would like to ask this of both of you. You can each answer this. What is your motto or your words to live by?
Wow. We can change the world.
I love
art, and I will add with art and humor.
Beautiful. Okay, that seems like the perfect way to end this evening. I'm so happy, and I've loved having both of you. I'm as you know, I'm such an admirer of both of you, not just your work, but also as human beings.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it is such, a pleasure and an honor to be with both of you tonight. And I love that you're such, committed friends of NoMAA. And it means so much to us to have you here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for, being part of our grand finale. And thank you for joining us in tandem, because this was really fun to be able to do this together. Before we end tonight, I would like to throw it back to Martin, who I think has a few announcements to make. Martin, are you here?
Yes, Daria, thank you. We are very grateful to all of you who joined us tonight. We encourage you and invite you to visit our website, nomanyc.org, to read our newsletter every week. Also, we invite you to take the Uptown Arts Stroll survey to win great prizes and provide us with your feedback on this year's Uptown Art Stroll. Now through August 15th. Please visit NoMAA's exhibitions displayed at the Hispanic Society Museum Boricua College, and Audubon Terrace. And this Saturday, July 31st, the Hispanic Society Museum will have a workshop with the mural exhibition artists. It's a free artist workshop for youth and families. See NoMAANYC.org for info. Also this Saturday, July 31st, from 12:30 to 3:30 p.m. is the 13th annual Stan Michaels Memorial Jazz Concert at Fort Tryon Park's Cafe Lawn. The rain location for the event is the Cornerstone Center at 178 Bennett Avenue at 189th Street. Please note, you must bring proof of vaccination to enter the Cornerstone Center. We want to thank you for joining us this evening. Everyone, have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Martin. Thanks to all of you tonight. Thank you, Natalie, for being here. Thanks to Gail Brewer for joining us tonight. Thanks to all of you for being a part of this, for your contributions. And Andrea and Felipe, it's been wonderful. Thanks for being with us tonight. Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much, Niria and the NoMAA team. We love NoMAA, and it was a pleasure.
As always. Okay. Good night, everyone.